Hi, I'm Tim Zacharias with Cougar USA and your host of Building Value. My guest today is Jose Hernandez, account manager with GSH at the new Marathon headquarters and vice president of the Houston chapter of ACOE. Jose, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, literally looking forward to this one. Always great talking with Jose. We're going to be talking about, on this episode, the role of the stationary engineer and chief engineer and how that's changing with the move from older to newer buildings with the technology, and how ACOE can help the engineering community. On Building Value, we go behind the scenes of building operations to showcase the people and products that make buildings work and the value they bring to the community. So, can you tell me about where you grew up?
Man, born and raised in Kansas. Up north, small town. I think when I graduated, it was 35,000 population.
Okay.
So one high school.
Yep.
Why I landed in Kansas, I have no idea. First generation in the States, because everyone else, Mexico. And for other reason, they landed in Kansas. I mean, I know the story, but I don't think we have that much time. But yeah, after college, just there was really nothing there. It's either a policeman, a lawyer, or a doctor is where you're going to make your good money there. If you're
Gotcha.
not doing any of those three, there's no point in being there.
Not a lot of tall buildings there, huh?
So no buildings at all. Not in the little town that I'm from, because Kansas City is the biggest city there, and we're about an hour, 45 minutes away from Kansas City.
Okay.
So I had family that lived here in Houston, and when my second year of college, he was like, "Hey man, you need to come down and visit us in Houston. You know this? I'm a building engineer," and I'm like, "Building engineer? What the heck is that?"
Yeah.
I never heard. Of course, we didn't have engineers back home, right? And so he's telling me he's opening doors for clients and this and that. So I'm just thinking he's a bellboy or something, right? And I'm like, man, I'm not going to come over there and open up doors for people. You're crazy. He goes, yeah, elevators, you let people get in, let them go up. I'm like, yeah, no. So I'll come over and visit, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, left Kansas, come over here to visit. And it was over a holiday weekend, I remember, back in 99. And that visit turned into a 2-week stay. It was just supposed to be the weekend. You know, went out to a couple of nightclubs and whatnot, and just opened up my eyes of what the potential was of where I came from, where you knew everybody, to coming to a big, large city and like, whoa, there's, look at the options. Not just for, people purposes, but just the broad range of how big this dang city was.
Yep.
I was like, wow. And so he worked at a commercial building that we used to own back when I first started engineering. He was an engineer, and he got me a job. The third week I was in town, he got me a job as a tenant in his building. They were looking for someone, and they hired me on the spot, and that's how I learned the engineering world.
Yep.
So I wasn't on my floor. I was down in the engineering department, not knowing what engineering was. And so I went on a couple calls with them. I was like, man, this is what you do all day? I was like, this is pretty cool. I said, I like this. And so I was like, man, I said, how can I get involved? He was like, well, let me talk to my chief. I was like, all right, whatever. So a couple more weeks go by. 8 months later, I got a job interview with the same company at a different location. It was Brookfield Properties at 610 and 290. And so I started there 2000, and I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah.
It's they hired me on the spot over there. I took the job and, just never turned back.
It's an interesting story, and I think it's probably similar to a lot of people that have gotten into this industry through somebody they knew. It's not, I would say, like very well advertised or people know about it.
It's really not.
A
lot of people just don't know engineering. What is engineering? So because you got your civil engineers, your electrical engineers, and all them. So they're like, oh, you're an engineer. Like, well, hold on, no, we're stationary engineers.
Yeah.
Well, what is that? We're maintenance guys. We run commercial buildings.
A little bit more than a
We're facilities, and they're like, so you do this, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
Just like the other day, my son asked me, he goes, Dad, what do you really do? And, you know, I fix things around the house. We fix our cars,
Mm-hmm.
you know, PMs on the AC units and, you know, sheetrock repairs or lighting repairs, switches. We change those out. And I'm teaching him these things, and he's like,
How do you know all this?
did you go to school for this?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, no. I mean, we kind of learn on the job. It's hands-on. I mean, yeah, there's schooling for it. You know, there's
Yeah.
the BOMI courses through BOMA and whatnot, but we had the way we were taught up, or the way I was taught up, it was just they threw us in the fire. Either
Yep.
you're going to learn and get out, or you're going to crash and burn, and you're going to be forgotten about, right?
Yep.
So I'm just like, okay, well, let's do it. So he was like, well, how? I said, do you want to do this? He was like, man, I don't know, because before where I'm at today, obviously, when I was positioned out in the Woodlands, I mean, I was on call 24/7. So I was getting calls all night, every night,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes I'd have to run out of the house to head to the Woodlands. And he made a comment. He goes, man, I don't want to do what you do because you work all
the
day,
time.
every day,
Yeah.
even on weekends. And I said, well, that depends on the position you take. You obviously is not going to do that, son. I said, you're going to be an apprentice. You're going to grow up. They're going to teach you. But when you get to that point 10, 15, 20 years down the road, then you will be doing what I'm doing. I said, but right now, you're 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, come in and come out. So it just, you know, the entry, and this is the problem that I think, my opinion, in Houston, where these commercial buildings, not a lot of people are hiring apprentices. They should hire more apprentices to bring people up. And, you know, some of them, yes, but typically what they're doing is what I'm seeing is they're bringing them in over from the janitorial company, the porters.
Okay.
Because that's initially where they start, and they're the assistants to all the engineers. They
Yep.
help them and whatnot with their everyday chores, and then we'll bring them in as light porters or painters.
Yep.
And then when they're not changing lights or not painting anything, that's when they help us out. They're changing motors, doing PMs, you know, working on the weekends. And that's where we're like, okay, well, let's bring this guy in.
Yep.
You know, because when someone gets promoted, leaves, or quits, gets fired, or whatever the case may be, we're like, okay, we got to pull from someone. Well, let's just take this guy. We've already trained him.
Yep.
You know, they were getting paid pennies on the dollar, so let's bring him in low versus advertising it. Hey, we need an entry-level position. You don't see too many companies doing that. I think they need to do more of that.
I think it's been a pretty consistent topic on this podcast too. Has been that our industry in general is going to age out pretty soon, right? Like,
yes,
and like you said, we don't have that consistent flow of new talent coming in.
Yep.
And so definitely one of the things that I try to do is promote this industry, whether it's the stationary engineers or the building trades, things like that. I mean, I definitely think there's huge opportunities in our industry to do well and to do work that's meaningful, right? And has some kind of tangible value and benefit, but is not necessarily out there and promoted very well.
No, you hit that nail on the head. There's a lot of, I say, old engineers. I'm 44, so if you're older than me,
I was trying to say that nicely.
If you're older than me, then you're old, right? Yeah. But yes, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to have the older generation under me, and I learned a lot from those old school cats, is what we call them. You know, they've been there, done that.
Yep.
But like you said, all those people are going to retire in 5 years or so we have to bring up these younger guys, and there's not enough young guys out there. It's all the older maintenance guys.
Yeah.
So
and it's a lot of knowledge to pass on, right?
It is.
So
and some of it you're not going to learn by going to these schools. It's got to be hands-on.
Yeah.
You know, you got to learn. You know, the book is going to tell you to do it this way, but you know, there's a more backdoor way of doing it, I guess. But it's just got to be smart about it at the same time, right? But it's just they know the do's and don'ts versus what is told in the book or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, you get the theory and some of the bigger picture in the classes, and hopefully a little bit of hands-on. But ultimately, the on-the-job training is probably going to pick up a lot of the detailed stuff. I mean, you just can't cover everything in the classroom.
It's I like the classes, and I mentioned BOMI classes, a few minutes ago. Those are great classes.
Yep.
Those are great teachers that are teaching those, and they've got the knowledge. But for someone to be in the trade 10, 15, 20 years, it's going to be a refresher course, and hopefully they've got them all knocked out. But it's definitely great for the 1 to 4 year guys that's coming into this trade. It's perfect for these guys.
Yep.
Like, I'm hiring an apprentice. My guys actually start tomorrow. My new outfit. He doesn't know anything about commercial buildings. So guess what? Next fall, I'm going to enroll him in that so he
In
can
the
get
C school. Yep.
exactly. So it's going to be perfect for him. But my senior guy that's been doing it for 35 years, it's not something for him to go unless he wants a refresher course or something to do. But,
Sure.
But it's not recommended. But there just needs to be more of that education that's out there. And like I said, there's only so much the books will teach you versus what the hands-on is. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I mean, a lot of what I've learned has been what I would call on-the-job training,
Yep.
and there's just no replacement for that in just kind of being hands-on and actually in it for a long time. It's going to take a while. So, you've been in the industry for a while, right? I'm not going to say you're aging out anytime soon.
I've got 20 more years at least.
but you've kind of moved into more of the senior role, like you said. So where are you now, and what is your role currently?
So my title today is account manager, and when I posted that on or updated my status on LinkedIn, everyone just automatically assumed I jumped over to the vendor world, and I get it, account manager, right?
Sure. Those damn salesmen.
And I'm like, no. They're like, you're my competitor now. Don't. I was like, whoa, what are you guys talking about? No, I'm still in the engineering world. So what it is Marathon Oil, they built the new HQ quarters down at City Center.
Mm-hmm.
So they outsourced their facilities to a facilities group, Mace Group, and they were doing all their facilities. And so now that they got the new headquarters, they're like, okay, Mace, we want you to do everything, right? And so they don't have an engineering department. And so they were trying to restructure or reconfigure or do something within, and they were like, no, you know what, let's just outsource it because we're good what we're doing today versus let's not reinvent the wheel. So they took it out to bid to all the engineering accounts, Able Engineering, ABM, all these little third-party engineering companies. And GSH Group, been around for 126 years, family-owned and operated. No one's heard of them, including myself and all my peers. No one's like, who is GSH Group? So first in Houston.
Okay.
So this is the first account. So what Marathon did is how they made the contract with Mace, the new headquarters is my home base. And part of that, my contract is I've got 3 other states where I've got properties at. So I've got a total of 10 properties, and that's the account manager. I'm over the whole account.
Gotcha.
So as soon as we get stabilized and everybody moved into this new building, then they'll start sending me out to these other locations. I've got to go hire engineers at these other properties. And so I oversee all these accounts. I'm excited because it involves traveling, of course. I'm all about traveling. I know I said earlier I'd rather drive than fly, but I'm going to do what the job tells me to do. So yeah, I'm real excited. I think it's going to be a good opportunity. And the guy who's my boss with GSH, he's like a national account manager, and he oversees all of the U.S. I mean, he's got so many accounts. So there's shortage on those particular accounts. He's an engineer, but he's just like a senior account manager role.
Okay.
So he kind of oversees everybody. It's funny because he called me yesterday and he was like, hey, Jose, Hawaii's needing an account manager over there. You want to go to Hawaii? And I'm like, well, so Hawaii. I said, I do have a cousin that lives over there. But I said, nah, as much as I'd love to, man. I said, if I was single, no kids, when's my flight leaving?
Yep.
I'm all about it. Let's go to Hawaii. I said, but I just got too many ties in Houston. I've been here a little bit over 20 years, so I've got stability here, and my family's here. Got a couple cousins that live here, but everybody else is in Kansas and Arizona. So
Gotcha.
I'm kind of in the middle between everyone. So I'm like, nah. I said, but I'll ask a few
go
people.
visit. Yeah.
So, but yeah. So that's my role here with GSH Group, and pretty excited. Pretty excited.
Yeah, that's pretty. And like what we kind of talked about before is that's the new headquarters building, and then that plus some of these other properties is kind of a big change from where you were in being a building that was built. I think it's fair to call that an older building,
Yes.
to now one that is brand new, packed with technology, and kind of like this kind of changing of the guard with the engineers. The role is changing as well, right? With from the older to the new building. So like, what are some of the things that you're seeing change in the role of the engineer with the new building?
So I spent most of my career at San Felipe Plaza. Loved it. Lived there, knew that building inside out. It was built in '84. Of course, the budget that we had with the several different owners that went through there, I mean, I want to say it was an unlimited budget because we pretty much got whatever we wanted. We upgraded all the equipment and added all this stuff so that building could literally run by itself. So I was slowly adapting to the new technology, right? Well, then when I left there to go to the Woodlands, I had a somewhat newer building and a bunch of older buildings. But to cross-reference what I got now to the older one, I was at another property where the building was 45 years old.
Yep.
And, it's not that they didn't want to spend money. It's just an old building.
Yep.
And everything's pneumatics, air system, all the equipment's old. And my guys were just so frustrated because everything was just falling apart, right? and we did put everything in the budget to start replacing stuff and fix things, but it was going to take 10, 15, 20 years to get everything up to where I'm at today, obviously. So those older buildings obviously were mechanics because we're always working on something. We're always fixing things. Stuff, it just never failed. There was always something going on every day of the week, 7 days of the week.
I believe
it. So coming from there to where I'm at today, this is a 2021 building. I mean, no more pneumatics, obviously. And granted, some of the buildings are DDC controls today, right? The owners are spending the money to upgrade and replace everything. But the way they designed this building, I mean, I'm surprised, we're not going to do Toby tours or whatnot in this building to compete. It's because it's privately owned, right? It's not a multi-tenant building, so we don't want people coming in to, this is what you guys are doing. No, it's privately owned. Marathon's going to keep everything to themselves. So I don't think we're going to get put on the list. But, again, the technology, I was just mentioning, I saw your dad in the lobby, the new elevator systems, we were just in training today where, I don't want to put the elevator company on blast, but it's the first, we are the first in Houston to have this app to where everything's touchless.
Yep.
We, as the tenants in the building and the ownership, you walk around with your cell phone with the app, and there's beacons everywhere and Wi-Fi devices, and it's all cellular controlled. And as long as you got signal on your phone, you're going to have signal. But it recognizes you as Jose. This is your number. So it'll say, okay, you're in the low rise. That app will tell you you're in the low rise. What floor would you like to go to? So they're destination elevators.
Yep.
And they do have the touch screens on the panel. So when visitors come, they push what floor they go to. But us as owners, third floor. Boom. Go to elevator A, and you wait. It comes down, takes you up to elevator 3. It's like, and so we're all sitting in this training because we did an orientation, about 30 minutes of videos, and they're explaining everything to us, and we're all looking at each other like, what the heck did we got? I mean, Marathon spent some money in this building, and it's some great, awesome technology, man. I'm very excited. My guys are going to be excited. Like I said, I've got an older gentleman that's coming in that hasn't been exposed to the new technology, if you will. So it's going to be challenging for him, of course. But I do have this other guy that's been, in the trade, about 10 years, and he's a young kid, and he loves the technology.
Yep.
So that's why I chose him, because it's going to be real easy for him. And he's going to get on board like that, and he's going to be my tech guy. Hey, go fix that. I'll just take your – so when they're doing temperature calls, they just take their iPad, and all the zones are going to be right here, so they'll know exactly where it's going to go. And – mind you, it's dual. How are they calling it? It's a dual fire or dual supply air handler. Don't know the proper terminology, so forgive me on that. But you got an up fire, discharge, and a down fire because it's a subfloor system.
Interesting.
So you got under the floor vents that are coming up. So you're sitting at your desk and you have a vent on the floor. So you got your discharge coming out of there, and then all the exteriors is just for the heating along the windows. So it's a dual firing air handler system.
Interesting.
Never seen that myself. So that I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. And it just, I mean, the list goes on and on with all this technology. And it's just, I'm super excited. All the sensors and gadgets that are on the automation system, one person's going to hold a device and we'll be able to run the whole building just off your phone. It's going to be incredible. Super excited.
I think stories like that and that level of technology getting into the new buildings will help draw in the new talent, right?
Oh, yeah,
the younger
absolutely.
generation, right? Because
Absolutely.
you know, you take them into an old building and they're looking around, they're like, this might as well be the Smithsonian, right? You're talking about pneumatic controls and everything being mechanical. Maybe not that sexy or exciting, but you start talking about, man, I can run this entire building from my phone wherever I'm at, and that level of technology. That's pretty slick, and I think that hopefully will grab the younger generation's
That's
attention.
exactly right.
Because I mean, like we said, it's a huge opportunity to get into this industry and to do stuff like that. So, you know, day to day, for people that maybe aren't familiar with kind of the role of the stationary engineer, the facility manager, like we talked about, you know, what do you feel like are kind of your top responsibilities that you take care of in the building?
I mean, obviously, number one on the list, you got to be mechanically inclined, right? Especially with the younger kids coming up. I'm gonna use my son for an example. You know, I taught him to work on his own cars, right? So now he's already got that upper edge on everyone else to where he's taken his car completely apart. So now he's mechanically inclined. So that's the number one thing that, you know, we obviously look for, and just the guy being hungry to learn for knowledge, that wants to do it, versus those that just come in and punch a clock and leave. You know, there's a lot of those guys still out there. They're in it just for the paycheck, and you know what? Some companies are okay with that because they have the place sitters and they're just going to sit there and do whatever they need to do just to move on. But you have those the 10-year guys that come in and want to change things and advance it and move it up to DDC controls, new mechanical or air handlers, just technology that this younger generation wants. So, you know, and that's what, you know, what I'm getting at is where if these guys focus on that and they come in and do these interviews, like you were saying, these older buildings, they're going to lose those guys. They're going to come to the interviews that we have, like the marathon buildings or some of the newer buildings that are coming up. Versus if they start here today and then try to go to the older buildings, they're going to, you know, now the stepping stone of learning, they should learn there, right? I'm going to contradict myself. They should learn there first.
Well, you got to
and then bring them over
right?
here. Yeah. So, you know, not everything's all kosher. You know, hey, just give me a brand new building. Because like the rookie that I'm bringing on board, we're going to teach him in this environment, the new technology, but what is he really going to learn as far as on the mechanical side? Because everything's going to run itself and everything's going to be electronically done. There's not a whole lot of mechanical stuff that he's going to learn, right? It's a small building, yes, but I mean, it's you're not going to please everyone. Some people want the brand new buildings. Some people want the old school buildings. Like when I started at Brook Hollow, there was an engineer there. I always kept teasing him because as long as I've been alive, that's how many years he was an engineer. You know, that's how much older he was than me, right? And he kept getting passed up as an assistant chief or chief because he didn't want that role. He just wanted to be out there being the mechanic and going out there and working on the buildings. That's all he ever wanted to do. And he retired some years ago, and that's all he ever was. He was never – because – and I'm not going to say your name, sir, but when he types, he was typing like this, right? And that's why he wants to be a mechanic. You know, would he be good as a chief engineer because you got to do an Excel spreadsheets and whatnot? Probably not. Could he do it? Yes, but it would take him a long time.
Sure.
So. But, you know, it's different from, you know, it just depends. You know, it's a hit and miss when the industry where what people want, and it's getting slim pickings out there to bring these guys up, and you know, it's just I don't know what we're going to do 10 years from now. You know, there's going to be a big shortage of engineers. There really is. Yeah,
I'm hopeful that the younger generation steps up and
I hope
takes on a lot of the building trades like we've talked about. But
right.
It is interesting though. You talk about moving up from that mechanic role, even if you started lower at that kind of porter role, and then you move it up more into the management side, that you're getting to kind of move more into some of the business side of the building, right? The budgeting, working with the property management, the tenants, things like that. So there's a lot more to the job than just, changing light bulbs or, getting the AC back on or whatever it is that people may that'd be maybe when they actually interact with the engineers the most, right? Is when stuff goes wrong. They're not seeing everything else that's going on day to day to kind of keep things rolling.
It's the management role, it's changed a lot. You know, when I was the assistant chief at Brook Hollow, I was out there working. You know, I was hands on.
Yep.
Yeah, I was the title. I did have the assistant chief title, but it was, and then further down the road, it turned in. Okay, you're not wearing a uniform anymore. You're wearing slacks and a polo shirt, and you're going to sit in the management office. So now you're learning the management role, the true manager of managing your budget, your checkbook, spending money, monthly expenses, just making sure everything's falling into place and getting everyone what they need to do. And, it's different today than it was back then where, it was almost the director of engineering was the only one in the management role. The chief and assistant chiefs were out there working, but it's not like that today. It's when you get those titles, you're a real manager today, and it's some good things because now you're just learning the whole area of property management. And at the end of the day, to be honest with you, as a chief engineer today, the stuff that we're learning, you could easily jump into a property manager role.
That's cool.
The assistant property management up to property manager. I've had a few property managers in my career where they weren't engineers in their past history, but the connections that they had, they learned engineering just because how the chief and the property manager had that connection. So they knew what we knew, and so it just made that much more easier when we go to them and say, hey, I need to change out this pump. Which one? Oh, yeah, okay, go ahead. Yeah. He knew what it was about, he or she, right? But then you have your other ones that are just getting forced into those positions, which I've had a couple of those too. They really didn't know, and so it was like sitting in there for 30 minutes explaining why we need the pump and why it costs this much, and now you're wasting time versus the ones that have that relationship versus the ones that don't have that relationship. So it's more. I don't want to say it's more challenging today. It's just you're getting more knowledge as an actual manager.
Yeah. And I mean that relationship with the property management side is definitely important, especially if they're holding the purse strings. Right? So
makes your life easier when your manager is on your side. You guys are seeing eye to eye, and when whether it's third party or building or management owned or whatever, it just makes it that much easier to do your job on a day-to-day basis. Absolutely. Yes.
Yep. So the other thing that I really like about kind of the stationary engineering in call it community really is how there's guys that work in different buildings, maybe work for different companies, but still kind of come together, help each other out, and especially through ACOE and those chapter meetings, kind of sharing best practices, things like that. So can you talk a little bit about ACOE and how you're involved?
Man, ACOE. I've been involved 12 plus years. I've been on the board.
And that it's the Association of Chief Operating Engineers.
So started back in 1952. I always bring that question up at some of the meetings. Does anyone know when the ACOE started? So the founders back in 1952, they created this little group, and it was only chief engineers. That's it, just chiefs. And then I'm not sure which year because so many years have passed, but they just opened it up to all the engineers.
It's probably a down budget year.
Right.
We need to get some more dues.
Right. But when I got involved, I was it's back when it was downtown at the Brookfield Properties, the shops downtown. I think it was 4 Houston Center or 2 Houston Center, one of them centers. But it's the shops. And it was, oh, man, I forgot the name of that bar that was right there. But they had a big room, and that's where everyone went and met. And, Danny Rodriguez is the one that initially invited me to come. And I'm like, okay. I said, I'll come check it out and see what it's about. So I'm sitting there, and, they're doing their spiel. They have a vendor that comes in, and they have about 20 minutes of the floor, and they discuss what they do and why they do it and why it's good for us. And it's not a sales pitch by all means. It's just more of an informational deal.
Sure.
And if you're interested, of course, you guys connect afterwards. And they fed us, and we sat there and networked, and I was like, man, this is pretty cool. So I went to the next month, same thing, and I was like, okay, I like this because now I'm figuring out who all the players are, who all the vendors are across the city, because we bring in all the vendors, whoever wants to join, engineers from all property management, and we bring everybody together, and we network. 350 members, I think
Wow.
is what we got on the books today. And it seems like every month we're bringing on new vendors, just because they're hearing but there's no advertising we're doing. It's just all by word of mouth.
Sure.
And so everyone's coming, and we give the vendor, if it's your first time, we give the vendor a freebie to come and check us out, right? If you like it, then you could become a member. If you don't like it, no harm, no foul.
Yep.
Nice to meet you. See you when we see you. But that hasn't been the case.
Yeah.
They're like, man, we want to be. Where do I sign up?
Yeah.
Where do I sign up? And it's been at several different locations since I've started, 12 plus years ago. Went from downtown to that bar, went to the Whitehall. Well, it was Crown Plaza. Then it went to Whitehall. And then they were overpricing, so we ventured out to find somewhere else, and that's why we ended up at the Cadillac Bar in I-10 and Shepherd, because they just charge us for the food.
Yeah.
It's real
It's
cheap.
a great setup.
It's easy in, easy out for everyone right there off of I-10. And so the whole point of ACOE, obviously, is to get everyone together so we can network and talk about what's going on. And we have a few councils. Jack Hollis with JLL has done real great with the CIC reports for us and what he's learning from downtown and from the city, and he's bringing it to us. We got a retired Ernest Chandler who does the welfare report for us. So if there's a fallen engineer or someone's sick or whatever the case may be, he always, especially if one gets put in the hospital or whatnot for whatever case, like during COVID, ACOE would send Bibles to the room or flowers, and he was in charge of that.
That's cool.
So that was a real cool committee for him to do. And then, of course, we have events throughout the years. Matter of fact, next one's coming up here in a couple of weeks. We're doing our golf event, which is completely sold out. So thanks to you vendors.
That's a great event.
We are 100% sold out. But all the monies that comes in, that's the funds that we use to send engineers to the C schools.
Yep.
So I didn't realize how many property management companies were out there that didn't pay for that to educate their engineers. That just blows my mind that you don't want to send your guys or you're making them pay for it. Man, that should be a company expense to educate their people.
Like a tuition reimbursement type
So
program,
they weren't even doing that. It even got to the point where, look, I'll pay for it. If I pass, then pay me back. If I fail, then I'll pay for the next one again. Until I pass, then you reimburse me. But that wasn't even the case. So we would get a letter from their manager saying we're not paying, whatever. And I was like, okay. So we use our money and we'll pay for scholarships we'll send these guys. Those are $900 first time around, and then $750 after that. And I remember one year, it was probably about 5 years ago, maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago. We had 16 to 18 engineers that we sent.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously because of COVID, nobody was really doing anything, but I think we've paid 2 or 3 for this semester already. But it's great, and I'm getting phone calls because a lot of these companies that are coming in have their accounts in Dallas and San Antonio and Austin, and they're reaching out. They're like, "Hey, where is ACOE in here?" Now, obviously, Austin has A-Fame, great organization.
Okay.
It's ACOE times 100. I mean, they've got vendors on the committees and boards, property managers. I mean, they get everyone involved out there. It's massive.
Wow.
San Antonio has theirs. I don't know what Dallas's does, but
We're not worried about Dallas.
Yeah, but we're just here locally in Houston, and it's working. A matter of fact, last year, 2 years, we're 21, so 20. Yeah, last year is supposed to have been my last year, but I got re-voted back in. Because I've already gone through all 6 positions of the board. You're doing them for 2 years straight, so you can learn what the ACOE does. And then at the end of my presidency, they were like, "No, Jose, we want you to come back on." I got voted back on. I was like, "All right, I'll help you guys out." Well, that was the goal, right? To help, to assist, to help these other guys take over. But it's still, I don't want to, pat my own back, but I'm doing almost all the work. The president's been out because, his family, his wife is in the doctor world, and so he obviously is getting the front hand of the COVID that what we don't know. So he's more fearful than most of us are.
Sure.
So I get that. Hey, totally respect it. But like saying, this think November is where we're going to nominate new board members, and we'll vote in December, and then January the new board takes over. So we have a third-party company that's going to do all the voting processes.
Oh, wow.
So, because back in the day, let me show you, way back in the day, it was all handwritten on a piece of paper, right? To vote who we want to be what, and then the committee will count them, okay, 10 this guy, 10 that. All that's over with, all the technology that we're talking about.
There we go.
So a third-party company handles it, manages it. So
no ballot harvesting.
Yeah, it's just, God, right? No. So, no, I'm pretty excited. ACOE is really it's funny because, I'm out. I was telling my wife the other day, we were walking in the Katy Mills Mall, and some guy, obviously I recognized him, but I couldn't remember what company he worked for. He was like, "Hey, ACOE." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, hey, what's going on, man?" It's funny. They recognize me as just ACOE and not Jose, right? It's like, "My name's Jose. Thank you. But, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like ACOE celebrity, I guess. I don't know. But, no, it's going in great direction. It does a lot of happy vendors that are coming to every single event, every meeting. I mean, you guys step up, and you guys sponsor pretty much everything that we have and what we're doing. So, again, appreciate you and everyone else out there. And, without you guys, ACOE wouldn't be here. So you guys are keeping us afloat. So thank you.
Well, absolutely. And it's a great organization, like I said, and it feels a lot like a community and a lot of good friends there, and we definitely have a good time at the events. And when we have the opportunity to present, we definitely appreciate that and enjoy that, and definitely enjoy the golf tournament. That's always a fun event.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, it's I think it's a great organization that's kind of pushing the trade forward and giving everybody an opportunity to network, like you said, and then hopefully take on the new technology and support the C School. So we also do a scholarship on the C School as well.
Yeah. Yep. And it's great for, getting some of these engineers positioned around the city as well, because a lot of vendors are like, oh, hold on, let me reach out to our connections with ACOE. And I get a lot of phone calls where like, hey, man, I need an engineer. I say, oh, man, I know 3 of them, so I'll send 3 resumes over. So I kind of feel like a staffing agency as well. But no, at the end of the day, it brings everyone together, like we just mentioned, and everyone knows that the community that we're in, we're all family. We're not just hanging out, drinking a couple beers or whatever. We really have a lot of good conversations, and a lot of information is being told at some of these meetings that we're having, and it's good stuff all around for the whole city. Yes,
absolutely. So if we're talking about or thinking about these newbies, these next generation, what advice would you have for them kind of coming into this industry to be successful?
Pay attention to what you get taught. Keep an open mind, because we're just getting started on technology. I mean, it's there, right? But we're not seeing all of it. It's funny because, just like the electric cars, it's been there for years, but they're just barely coming out.
Yeah, and you look at like a Nest thermostat, that's been around forever, and that sort of technology, the Internet of Things, is slowly coming into the commercial market.
Yeah, a lot of people are scared of it. They're scared of the technology. Some people still don't know how to manage an iPhone. They're like, I don't want this. I want the flip phones back, right? But no, it's just if these young guys just learn from their peers, we tell you things not to tell you what to do, but because the knowledge that we have and we're sharing this with you, just, there's some guys, I'm going to call an engineer that used to work for me, Jose Martinez. He's with Parkway Properties today. He started a couple years after I did. That guy, I tell you, of all the engineers I worked with, and it's not been a whole lot because I haven't been jumping ship to ship, but the engineers that I worked with, that guy there, if he is like a sponge. You tell him information, you have him watch a video or whatever, he just soaks all that information in, and it stays there.
Yep.
Some guys, okay, you'll teach him today, and he'll ask questions tomorrow because he forgot about it, right? But that guy there, man, it's just that's what I would tell the younger guys.
Be the sponge.
Just be the sponge, so you could absorb all that information, so where you could use it when you get put out into the world. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I think it's great advice. I mean, there's definitely going to be a steep learning curve for the new generation.
And it's
coming.
always changing. It's
Yep.
always changing.
But that's one of the exciting things for me. I mean, right? Like no day at work is ever the same. You might be going to the same building or dealing with the same equipment like we do, but no day is ever the same.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And that's what, for me personally, that's why I like what I do, because it's always something different.
Yep.
You know, you go to McDonald's and make burgers all day long. You know, that's boring. That get bored. You know, I want to, you know, like the older buildings, refer back to the older ones, the 30, 40-year-old, even newer buildings, you know, something's going to be different every day. And that's why I think maybe some of these people are why they like this career, because they're going to never be bored.
Nope.
They will not be bored of their career or what they do. So it's always just something's always going on. You're always going to be learning, and you learn something new every day.
Yep.
Something comes up, and you're going to learn something new every single day.
Yeah.
That's what I love about this trade.
Absolutely. So what about if anybody was interested in ACOE, what's the best way to get involved?
So, again, you know, I get all those emails that come in. Hey, how do I get involved? Well, first, come and check us out, because sometimes I'll send emails to them, just kind of give a layout of what ACOE does and why we're here. But most of the time I say, you just need to come see for yourself.
Yep.
This is when our next meeting is. You come free as a guest. Bring your coworker, bring your boss, or whoever you want to bring. Just come as a guest, see what we do, and then I'll follow up the next day and I say, hey, so what'd you think?
Yeah.
They're like, man, this is where I need to be. This is my market. You know, BOMA has their property management. You know, IRM has their people. IFMA has their people. And most of our vendors go to all those. You know, I'm not here to say who's better than whoever, but you know, after we give that free initial first meeting, they always come back.
Sure.
It's just, I mean, the meeting speaks for itself.
Sure.
Right. But you know, it's great because what we do as a paid member, you come on board, and I'm probably going to get a lot of phone calls after someone sees this. I didn't know that. Where's it? But if you are a paid member, you will get a list, the spreadsheet of all of our members, because you're a paid member. That's part of the dues.
Gotcha.
I will email you the list.
Yeah.
You'll get the directory. I mean, we're not hiding anything.
Yeah.
Right? So you'll get the list of all the engineers that are coming on board. So there you go, vendors. You're welcome. And if you don't have it, just let me know and I'll send it to you. But yeah, they just
and all the. I mean, you can go to the ACOE Houston website. Everything's there. Right?
It'll yes. There is a directory of all the vendors, and there's a lot of them that's been there for years. Because everyone just renews their membership, they want to come back. And there's even some that we've put your company information on our webpage at the front to advertise a little bit on that. So yeah, I mean, the advertising and networking, it works perfect for everyone.
Absolutely, I agree. So any final thoughts or comments on GSH or ACOE? Any of the topics that we've covered today?
Man, I'm excited that GSH Group is now in Houston. There's a lot of third-party companies that are out there. I've worked with another group, so they're pretty much all the same. But GSH, is, like I said, they've been around for a long, long time. First in Houston, so I'm pretty excited to see what's next for GSH.
Yep.
Just because they're starting to pick up contracts. And as far as ACOE, I bleed ACOE, right?
Yeah.
And you know, I will be sad, and I hope someone throws me a retirement party if I get voted off, and someone, you know, the younger generation will come up, but I'm always going to be part of it. I mean, that's what I do, and that's half the city probably only knows me from ACOE. So, you know, if I do get voted off this year, it's not that I'm going to be gone. I mean, I'll still come to the meetings and whatnot, and I'm still going to help out the current board that will take over in 22. But you know, if you're not involved, I'd say definitely get involved. It's definitely a good networking event for everyone, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you know, we, like I said, we've been supporting ACOE for a while, and definitely enjoy the meetings. So we appreciate everything you've done on the board there, and looking forward to supporting you at GSH as well. We have some equipment over there at your new building, so we'll be looking forward to working with you there. So
it's going to be fun.
Yeah, Definitely. Well, Jose, it was great talking with you today. I appreciate you coming on the podcast, and always great chatting with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been a pleasure, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Been a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, also want to thank all of you for watching and listening today, and we hope to see you on the next episode of Building Value.